everyone. Hello, my little dyslexic community. Norda is here and welcome in new episode of Real Talk with Norda. Today, my guest is dear Zena. She's 54 years old, born in Suffolk, UK, and lives in Norfolk, UK. She's a cooking teacher and food writer, and she also runs 3 holiday homes and gives food and drink walking tours in Norwich, UK. She wasn't diagnosed until when she was in her early 20s by herself, when she watched a program on TV and then realized that was her dad and her. Her hobbies: she loves eating out, blogging, and being food influencer has been brilliant for her social life. She also loves yoga and Pilates, and she loves to travel and can't wait to retire to explore more of the world and its food. Her future plans: she hopes to slow her work down over the next few years, sell the business in 5 years, and retire early so she can enjoy more and travel. Hello, dear Zena, how are you?
Hello, I like to hear all that. That's sort of funny but nice at the same time. I like it.
Thank you. Are you ready for my questions and for Real Talk with Norda?
I certainly am. Yes, I've signed up.
Great. Okay. I want to start with your school time. Could you share with us, what kind of difficulties did you had through your schooling with your dyslexia?
So, at my first school, there was a method that they introduced in England, and I can't remember what it was called. It was 3 initials, and I always want to say ITN. But being dyslexic, I know they're not the right initials. But it was a method that they tried and experimented with in that particular year, and unfortunately, they picked me to do it. And it was, you were meant to learn spellings, how they sound. So like a lamb would be LAM instead of ALAMB. So I learned completely wrong. Already I'm dyslexic, and then already I'm learning everything wrong. And that really put me back a lot. So when I was sort of coming out with probably normal dyslexic learning and, struggling a bit, they just thought it was always down to the method that they taught me in my first school. So it was always put down to that. Plus I went to lots of different schools because my parents moved around a bit. So I probably went to like 5 schools, maybe before I was 12. So again, they kind of considered that would have put me behind. So I was always behind in the bottom of the class, and I was kind of used to being there. So I always got lots of extra help. But in those days, you are talking, 40 years ago when I was a little girl, yes. you were just considered thick and, and stupid in the bottom of the class.
Yes. Tell me, you said, and I read that you was diagnosed in your early 20s. Yes. Could you share with us, what kind of reaction did you had when you find out that you are dyslexic?
I can't really remember, but I just remember being a little bit relieved because, you've got that kind of you're a bit thick because you never got many qualifications, and I struggled at school. And so I had a lot of my friends, they were always bragging about, I've got A levels or whatever. And I was always like, well, I've got 1 in religious studies and I'm an atheist. So that's not a lot of good. So, yes, I think I was a little bit relieved to know it was something rather than it was just, an ability to perform to a certain level. And
yes, but it was relief. When you find out, it was yes. Oh my God, I struggle with reading. That is not something wrong, and it's really important to find out I'm not stupid. I just struggle with reading. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and could you share with us, did you struggle with your mental health? Most of dyslexics said that they struggle with their mental health, but did you struggle with yours?
I had a really strong mother and parents who were always and my dad was dyslexic, so he was quite entrepreneurial. So, and with my mum's sort of intelligence and my dad's sort of practical dyslexic thinking brain, so they made a fantastic duo, and they did really well. And so all my life we started off in like a business that my mum ran in a bed and breakfast, and then they just kept renovating houses and doing better, and they were always involved with lots of different things. So I was brought up with a massive family and lots of love and attention and doing different things all the time. But I must admit, I was very shy and insecure as a child because everyone in my family was just so loud. I remember playing, I don't know if you know a game called I forgot what the name is, Pursuit. It was like a quiz game that was very popular in the 80s. And it was based on, questions from around the world. And I hated playing it because it made me sort of brought me back to school and made me feel really thick again. And my family would be really loud and arguing all the time. And, and I would just get no questions right. And I used to hate stuff like that. So I was very shy and insecure. But my mum was very much, like, you should always try everything and you should push yourself and, you should just really try and achieve. And I think that's really helped me sort of today. I for instance, next week, someone's asked me to do a talk, and it's just nothing that I would have been able to do, maybe even like 10 years ago, to be able to stand up in front of people and talk about my life and about writing.
Yes.
And even though I'm kind of bricking it and I'm really scared, I feel like I've got to push myself, because you've got to achieve in life and you've got to just keep sort of pushing and doing different things. So very shy and insecure as a child. As a teenager, I did go through, I think all teenagers go through that confused stage and not knowing what you are and where you're going to be and what you're going to do. So I definitely went through sort of mental health issues as a teenager, but as an adult, whenever I feel down or if I kind of just fight it. And I suppose I'm a realist in the fact that I just accept that a lot of people are bastards and the world's a bit of a shitty place sometimes.
Yes.
And you just got to kind of just push through and live the best life you can.
Yes, in life, like, you need to be really strong to overcome some issues. Like you just can't overcome them. Like you really need to be like mentally strong. And like in your community, like, is your community informed about dyslexia, like in general? So does your community support dyslexics or something like that?
I think we understand them now. In my day, obviously didn't understand anything, and when I went to college, it wasn't understood or at work. But I've got a son now he's now 19, but the difference with him being dyslexic as well is, so different at school. He got so much help at school, and he got a reader and a subscriber in his exams. So he obviously did so much better because he got that extra help. He got a special like laminates to put over paper, so they're different colours so that you can read them a little better. So the understanding at school is far better and superior, and you get huge amounts of help and someone to talk to whenever you want to. And it's accepted, I think, within the classroom as well, that there's always going to be 2 or 3 dyslexics in a classroom, probably of a classroom of 30. And there's always going to be people with different abilities, and I think that's accepted, that there's different abilities, and different ways of thinking. And certainly I think in the media now there's this big thing, where alternative thinking is is quite cool and accepted and understood. And if you think about the dyslexics in England, we've got people like Richard Branson and like people like Einstein, were dyslexic.
Flora Knightley, Orlando Bloom, and those
incredible people that are dyslexic, that are really high achievers and have done exceedingly well. So I think that's sort of, if anyone ever puts us down, I'll just sort of say, but there might be 90% dyslexic in a young offenders prison, but there's also 90% dyslexic, are the top entrepreneurs in the country. So it depends which way you want to take it in life.
Yes, I totally agree. And could you tell me, like, most people have that negative perception around dyslexia. What do you think? Why is such a negative perception around dyslexia, and what we dyslexics need to do to change that negative perception?
I don't see. I'm quite happy to embrace it. My son gets very angry because I've got a YouTube channel called Dyslexic Chef, and I like it because it kind of explains how I am And if I make a mistake on camera, or if I get a word mixed up, it doesn't matter, because I've already said I'm dyslexic, put up with it and, get on with it. Watch me if you want to. But my son really didn't like it, because he said, you're just, you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you're trying to get attention, or whatever it was, and I think as you get older, I'm really happy that I'm dyslexic, and it makes me who I am. And I'm quite happy to shout out about it. If I get things wrong, I said, you just have to excuse me, my brain's dyslexic, So I'm happy to sort of talk about it, and put it out there. So I don't have a problem with how people think or what they think of me, and so I don't really see that people think negatively as such. I think they're quite certainly where I come from, they're quite accepting and used to it. It's sort of a normality now, before where it wasn't. Yes. And I think it's just a matter, like around the world, there's different perceptions, but I think it's just a matter of time before we all get to a certain level of understanding. And it's all about what you're doing is putting it out there, and and showcasing it, and so it becomes normal the more we talk about it and the more we see it.
Yes, I totally agree. And yes, we need to talk more about dyslexia, because when some dyslexic start to talk about dyslexia, that means that that he is like, I'm okay, I'm dyslexic, and I want to learn someone else how I feel and how I struggle, and how you can help me to deal with my difficulties. So yes,
I feel sorry for people that aren't dyslexic. They haven't got this magic, this magic brain.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes. And do you have some dyslexia strategies, like for learning and organization? Because we dyslexics struggle with learning and organization. Yes. And could you share with us some tips and tricks?
I think it's been worse since I've got older, because I've just sort of gone through the menopause. So that's a whole nother thing, being a certain age and your brain sort of reacting in a certain way, and then having dyslexia on top of that. So I'm completely forgetful, and sometimes I'm not sure if it's dyslexia or my age, or maybe I'm going senile, I don't know. But so I've certainly noticed it in the last 5 years, getting things mixed up and muddled up. And I'm an influencer, and I do a lot of writing. So everything that I do has to be checked. And sometimes I'll read it through maybe 3 times and I won't see a mistake. I'll have to keep reading it. So it's just something that I suppose I've got used to doing, and it becomes normality that I know that they're not my strengths, and I have to keep checking myself or getting people to proofread things. And I'm forever, doing, like in Instagram, you do stories and you kind of do them really quickly and then send them off.
Yes.
And then I'll read it later, and the other day I said things are getting bigger and better, but I actually put bugger and better, or better and bugger, I put in instead. But I just think it's funny. I laugh about it. And you get these people that think that's really, that's their job to correct you. So I get a lot of people that send me messages saying, you've spelt that wrong. And I'm like, I really don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yes.
But, but then you just go back and edit it, because, for all these people that think, everything has to be perfect all the time. Yes. And at the end of the day, we were cavemen. We kind of invented this language. It's not natural to anyone. It's not our natural, a natural existence to speak Japanese or Italian or English. We've made it up. And who says that you have to say things in a certain way, or the sky's blue? It's up to us as well. So I don't take much notice of it. I think it's quite funny when I make mistakes.
Yes, and could you tell me, I love this question, what are your dyslexia strengths and weaknesses? Like, could you share with us like few strengths and few weaknesses?
Well, obviously the weaknesses are things like when you go to watch a movie and it's subtitled, and I can't quite get to the end before everything, and I'm really concentrating on those words. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of missing everything that goes on in the picture, which is really annoying. I hate subtitle films. So I don't really like reading. So I very rarely read a book. I don't think I've read a book for about 5 or 6 years now. And I've got a whole stack in my bedside cabinet of books that I keep getting and then never read. I love writing. I think dyslexia, you get a brilliant imagination.
Yes.
And you're very creative. So I've written 2 children's books. I've self-published one. I've written a novel which is 70,000 words, that my husband read the first 3 chapters and said it's pornographic, it's disgusting. But I have had a friend that read it and they really enjoyed it. But I've not had that published. But I do love writing, and I write poetry. So creative-wise, I love writing and I love creating writing. That's something that I really enjoy. And I love my imagination. I could literally, sit down at any time of the day and, give a subject like tomatoes, and I could write, a story about tomatoes or whatever. Awesome. So creative-wise, that's really good. And practical-wise, like, for instance, when I was about 4, I wanted a watch, and my parents said, you can't have a watch because you don't know how to read the time. And I'm like, well, if I don't get a watch, I'll never learn how to read the time. So they gave in because I kept nagging. And I got a watch, and then I wondered how it worked. So I wanted to take it to bits so I could discover how it worked. And I said to my dad, can I take the watch to bits because I need to understand how it works? And him being dyslexic too, he understood that's how our brains have to function. We have to understand everything. So he said, you can take it to bits, but you have to put it back again. So at 4 years old, I'm sort of doing this watch and sort of like understand, oh, that's interesting. that clicks and the wheels go around. So, you have a creative brain that just wants to understand everything. And I was very lucky. I had a mum that was very intelligent. So as I grew up, I needed to know everything. So, who's the Queen's father and anything, there's a goose outside. What breed is it? How long does it live for? I kind of just need to know everything. But then, of course, being dyslexic, I don't remember it for long. I'm a bit like a goldfish, sort of 2 years later, I'm like, oh, there's a goose out there. I wonder how long that lives for. So
yes.
I like to know, but unfortunately, it doesn't sort of stay in my brain for very long. It's probably there somewhere, but
yes, but it's really important, as you said, like your mom encouraged you to like learn about new things.
You can't escape it. You've got to embrace it and move forward. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and could you tell me, I want to talk about your job and dyslexia. What do you think, does your dyslexia strengths and weaknesses influence on your job, and in what way?
Yes, absolutely. Well, when I was deciding, when I was back at school as a teenager and I didn't know what I wanted to do, I knew I wasn't educated enough to sort of do an office-based job. So it had to be something practical. So I went into catering because I thought with catering, I can work all over the world. I can have my own business. So I went into catering, and it was really good for me because it's a practical job. So there was less time in the classroom. I hated the classroom when you had to dictate notes and read off a blackboard. Yes. It was just boring and dull, and I never did very well on the exam side of things. But the practical side of things I really enjoyed. And again, you with dyslexic brains, you kind of see everything through pictures and imagery. So to be able to perfect a dish, once you've done it, you just get better at it, and you can create and just get better and better and sort of build those layers up. So it's definitely helped as a chef, being practical, because you're just so organized. And eventually wherever I went, it wasn't long before I sort of took the next steps up to sous chef and then head chef, just because I sort of mastered things really quickly, and I always loved nurturing other people as well and training other people. It was always a big thing of mine whenever we had young people in the kitchen, was to infuse them into a kitchen, and so that's teaching. I've always loved teaching, so that's why I went into cookery teaching, because I generally love showing people. And I think because you're dyslexic, you work out how to do things from the beginning to the end. So yes. It's easy to get into teaching because you understand how your brain works at a level and how you want to be taught. You can then show people, practically how to break things down and how to teach them. So dyslexia certainly has improved me as a, in the practical job of things, is, been amazing. I don't think I could be, the chef I am or the teacher that I am without dyslexia, because that really, enforces everything that I am is because of dyslexia, I think. And also,
Yes.
you know, the creativeness about writing and wanting to achieve and wanting to get better and wanting to do the next step. And so I think juggling as well. A lot of people say they don't understand how I can run holiday homes, run a cookery school, do food and drink walking tours, and probably spend 2 hours a day on Instagram, you know, sort of talking about other people's businesses and promotions and things. But I love being busy, and I like, you know, and I'm happy if I just sit on the sofa with a cup of tea and just write for an hour, you know, and I can choose and pick what I do, and I balance it. And I think because a dyslexic brain, even though you're kind of disorganized, you know, you get a format and you can automatically do, your kind of brain goes on to automatic pilot and you just can get through everything.
Yes, I totally agree with you with that part. Like, we dyslexics can be really good teachers because we have that empathy, and of course we can see like how someone need, what kind of help someone need, or something like that. So yes, that is true. We are really good teachers, and we have that different way of thinking. So as you said, you can some other and see what kind of help he need through learning.
So
I
think you're very, I think it's a matter of being, I think being female as well, you're a bit more perceptive about what people need, and so you I can sort of assess the situation and kind of know how I'm going to go about it and what steps you're going to take.
Yes.
You don't think about it, you don't analyze it. It's just an automatic process that your brain can just, you know, function on that level and that perception, I think.
Yes, I agree. And we are on our last question for you. Yes. Could you share with us like your message to our dyslexia community? Like, you as dyslexic, what do you think, what is most important thing for you is in your life?
Well, I say, are we talking about on the dyslexic level? I think dyslexics are just really special people. You know, we can't survive. We're created in the whole world of nature and evolution to be the people that are going to achieve and get on and nurture and create as well. So we're very important society, and you know, we're incredible. We're brilliant. Dyslexics are brilliant. So, you know, don't ever let it knock you down. You know, fight it and push it and be the best person you can be, because dyslexics are special. It's a special gift, I think. And I sometimes wonder what it would be like to be not dyslexic for one day, but I think I'd be quite bored.
Yes, same, same, yes. So yes, thank you so much, Zena, for being here, for sharing your thoughts and your dyslexia story with our incredible dyslexia community and with me. Yes, thank you so much for watching this episode of Real Talk with Norda. Other episodes of Real Talk with Norda you can watch on my YouTube channel, Norda Disleksija. And yes, see you in some new episode of Real Talk with Norda. Bye!